There is so much to say about the new Pokémon Horizons episode 130, from the end of the main story finally kicking off, to a Pokémon catch that nobody saw coming, to actually setting up the ultimate betrayal. This one was crazy, dude, just pure peak all the way through. So let's review the episode in this video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and now we'll dive into it. The episode began with the Strong Sphere finally being released to the public, with trainers all over the world beginning to use them. By the way, this random guy low-key reminded me of Sam from Stardew Valley, and weirdly these two random guys really reminded me of the biggest idiots on the planet, because bruh, come on. How are you gonna have a Garchomp and a Tyranitar and still think that Strong Spheres are the secret to true power? Like, are the two pseudo-legendaries not strong enough? I'm not gonna lie, I still don't really understand Spinel's end goal here. It's crystal clear to anyone with eyes that Strong Spheres are harmful and violent to Pokemon. It'll literally take a day or two for most trainers to realise that and report the Strong Spheres and get them banned worldwide. The writers trying to make us believe that Strong Spheres could actually take over the world kinda feels like a weird plot hole, a weird leap in logic. Unless, of course, there's some master plan behind it that we don't know of yet. Hey, maybe Spinel has figured out how to manipulate Larkweem so he can control the Pokemon affected by it. Like, dude, imagine Spinel building an army of Larkweem-enslaved Pokemon and launching an all-out war against our heroes in Larkwa, trying to take over the world with them. That would be insanely peak. It's kind of given, I am Spinel, Lord of Larkweem, wahahaha! I'm just kidding, but some of you guys will know the reference. Realistically though, I can imagine Spinel probably just wants a monopoly on Pokemon battles, and then he obviously gets super rich. Anyway, Spinel sends Chow's Coral and Sidian to the Larkwa Paradise to up the security there in case the Ryzen Volt Tacklers strike, and meanwhile Dot is watching the Strong Spheres taking over the world. She sees in a battle that a Pokemon runs away from its trainer into the wild because it doesn't want to face the pain of the Strong Sphere, and that's actually devastating, man. But this idiot trainer doesn't even care though. He just yells at the Dash Bund, telling it that he'll just find a better, stronger Pokemon to replace it. Dude, not only do the Strong Spheres ruin the bonds between trainer and Pokemon, but they also bring the worst out of so many trainers. And for that reason, ladies and gents, we have a new addition to my most hated characters list. The idiot trainer absolutely deserves it. How are you gonna treat your bread dog like that? I hate this guy. Later on, our heroes arrive back and they all reunite, congratulating Roy on catching the Black Rayquaza, and then they confirm the 18 Pokemon that will represent each Terra type in the final showdown for Pogogo. Arboliver, Moltres, Lapras, Kleavor, Gouging Fire, Black Rayquaza, Meowscarada, Hatterene, Skeledirge, Kilowattrel, Captain Pikachu, Quaquaval, Tinkaton, Sylveon, Pawmot, Samurott, Ceruledge, Pecharunt. Oh, I don't know why I was trying to do all of that in one breath. So yeah, that's exactly what we predicted really for the Terra types, but I do love that all of our heroes' Terra Pokemon were caught before the time skip. It makes their power level for Pogogo feel more earned because they've been training for over a year canonically. Meanwhile, the explorers head off, but they're quickly blocked by Hamber. He preaches to them about how it's not too late for them to change sides, because he knows they all have genuine bonds with their Pokemon, and Strong Spheres severing those bonds all around the world will mess everything up. But Chow very quickly cuts him off. It seems that she doesn't really care for the Strong Spheres themselves, but allying with them and allying with Spinel are a means to achieve her own goals. That's really intriguing, man, but more on that later in the video. So the explorers send their Pokemon out and Hamber does too. It's time for their old teacher to give them one final lesson. And Coral and Sidian quickly Strong Sphere their Pokemon as the battle begins. And by the way, we haven't seen Coral's Screamtail a single time since before the time skip. It's been nearly 50 episodes, bro, what happened to her? Anyway, the battle begins with Hamber absolutely dominating. Dusknoir is zooming around dodging everything with Phantom Force, while Rotom's double team leads to him paralysing Glalie with Thunder Wave, and then the two of them tag team Garganical, hitting him hard. Even when Chowser's Medicham lands a Zen Headbutt, Dusknoir's Trick Room strat leads to him dominating even more. He hits the Shadow Punch on Medicham, and then the coolest thing ever, he grabs Glalie by the horns and throws him at Garganical. My god, Hamber is built different, dude. We need him in the final showdown 100%. I love the trope of an elderly character finally locking in and unleashing their true power, showing everyone all the decades of experience they have. Chouse then uses a Strong Sphere on Medicham, and that combined with a Calm Mind buff and some extremely convenient timing of the Trick Room fading, it leads to her hitting both Rotom and Dusknoir insanely hard with Psybeam, knocking them both out. That did seem very sudden and very abrupt, but Medicham was double buffed up, so it's not that far-fetched. However, then, in the haze that Dusknoir managed to form before he passed out, a dark being with a huge glowing mystical red stone appears. Dude, is that the Philosopher's Stone? I'm just kidding. This isn't Harry Potter or Full Metal Alchemist. So the explorers are confused and stunned and intimidated, so they try and attack it, but the mysterious being moves around the darkness with absolute ease, hitting the explorers with moonblast after moonblast. Coral is so frustrated that she can't see anything, that her solution is to self-destruct Glalie to clear the haze. To be fair, it actually works, but it also knocked out Glalie and Garganical. Chow though was a genius because she made her Medicham hide behind the big salt guy, surviving. So now that the darkness has cleared, Hamber's new partner is revealed. The one and only Bloodmoon Ursaluna, dude. That is so peak. This left fans completely stunned. It's so random and unexpected. One of the coolest, edgiest, fan-favourite Pokemon of all time who was weirdly ignored for the whole series up until now, and now is suddenly part of our hero's team? Nobody saw that coming, dude. Apparently Hamber met it and battled it and caught it in Kitakami. Now of course I do kinda wish we got an episode about that, but hey, it's better than nothing, right? Plus, I'm not gonna lie, Hamber and Ursaluna kinda resemble each other with the grey, aged, battle-hardened, grisly appearances. They're a pretty fitting duo. Part of me still wishes that Bloodmoon Ursaluna was one of Lucius's 6 heroes, though. So, Bloodmoon Ursaluna uses the Bloodmoon attack, and dude, it looks so cool! And I'm kinda stunned that Medicham survived it, I'm not gonna lie. That feels like such a finisher move that I thought Medicham was cooked. And at this point, when the explorers are at the peak of their struggling, Hamber tries to remind them of the times they bonded with their partners before joining the explorers. We even get some flashbacks, dude, finally! We see that Coral and Glalie were frustrated that they couldn't go as wild as they truly desired during battles, so Hamber invited them to join the explorers where they can do that. Then we see that Sidian and Garganical were street fighting experts, so strong and with such a reputation that they had no one to compete with, until Hamber beat them in a battle and invited them to join the explorers. But the most interesting by far is Chow's backstory. You see, Chow was a teacher in a small town who loved her students and loved her job. She genuinely loved and valued that she could make such a big difference in the future of these kids through teaching them. That was until the school that was her heart and soul shut down because of financial issues. She did all she could to try and stop it, but in the end she was left heartbroken and she had to part ways with the schoolchildren that she cherished. Then Hamber arrived and invited her to join the Explorers, where she can rise up the ranks and help make her dreams come true to provide education for kids and maybe even reopen the school. Maybe Spinel promised to pay for the schoolchildren's tuition fees, or to pay for the schools to be reopened, if Chow's allies with him. That would be crazy, dude, but really interesting and complex for Chow's character. So clearly none of them were bad people before the Explorers. They all had good intentions and good bonds with their Pokemon when they joined, but clearly things just got twisted along the way. Hamber reminds them of it and says that their bonds with their Pokemon are everything, they're the reason they're here, and that the Strong Spheres are destroying that. But it's not too late to change. But Chow just refuses to think about it. So she reveals her Keystone and she Mega Evolves her Medicham, dude. What a twist. And dude, the deeper meaning behind this is crazy. I'm going to talk about it in a little bit. Mega Medicham clashes with Ursaluna before hitting it hard with Zen Headbutt, and then it hides in a bush before using its psychic power to predict Ursaluna's attack, allowing it to leap up and strike hard with Axe Kick. Ursaluna is down. Chow wins the battle, but Hamber absolutely won the war. Because think about it. In that moment, Chow herself proved Hamber right. The Strong Sphere wasn't enough to win. It severed her bond with Medicham and she couldn't beat Hamber using it. So then, what did Chow do instead? She chose Mega Evolution, the process that fully inherently relies on the bond between trainer and Pokemon being strong. And what do you know, that was the thing that allowed her to win. So deep down, Chow proved Hamber right. Choosing Mega Evolution was her choosing her bond with Medicham, instead of severing that bond. Hamber forced Chow's hand. He forced her to prove herself wrong, and now the entire basis of the Strong Spheres completely crumbles. He just totally dismantled the Explorers and broke their beliefs entirely, and if that's not peak writing, man, then I don't know what is. Hamber escapes with Ursaluna having done all he could do, and crazily I saw some fans saying that all of this was pointless, because the explorers didn't change sides. But that's so short-sighted, dude. It's crystal clear that Hamber planted the seeds of doubt in all three of the explorers. Yeah, Chow, Coral and Sidian are still heading to Lakwa, but now they're thinking about whether what they're doing is right. They're thinking about the strong spheres severing their bonds with their Pokemon, and as a result, they're doubting Spinel even if they won't admit it yet. And I'm certain that all of this will lead them to come into a full realization during the big final showdown, and then they'll betray Spinel, probably turning the tide of the war as a result. That's gonna be so peak, dude, and it's all thanks to Hamber in this episode. He set up the ultimate betrayal, leaving Spinel with no one on his side. Meanwhile, Friede contacts our heroes, he's finished with analysing his space data, and they all decide that it's finally almost time for everyone, all their friends, to meet up for the final showdown. Liko's resolve to stop Spinel from taking away the happiness of the world and the bonds of people and Pokemon is stronger than ever, dude. And that is where the episode ended. Overall, I genuinely do not have a single fault with this episode. It did everything it needed to do perfectly. It showcased Hamber's strength better than ever along with a shocking new team member. It planted seeds of doubt and betrayal in the explorers while also exploring their backstory. It kicked off the Strong Sphere global takeover, and it perfectly set up the big meetup for the final showdown. And dude, with all of this happening, it's more clear than ever that we're quickly approaching the end of the main story of Horizons. Now of course, I'm sure Horizons probably got extended by another year because of Gen 10 releasing in 2027, but I do still think that the main storyline with Spinel and the Larkwium will probably be ending soon, and that's so surreal but so hype. Chow's backstory also was a key strength in this episode. I loved her reason for joining the Explorers, wanting to reopen her school, wanting to help the education and learning of children, and I feel like deep down she's not too far gone, you know? That loving, positive, hopeful teacher is still inside her brain somewhere. She just needs to let her out. Why do I get the feeling that Spinel could threaten the lives of our young heroes in the final showdown, maybe trying to unalive them? And maybe that moment could be when Chow remembers who she is, how much she deeply cares for children in her heart. She could realise that even if she had good intentions at the beginning, it's just not her to allow children to be put at risk, because that's what she cares about most. I also want to say quickly that there's been word spreading around about next week's episode maybe being a 1-hour special with 2 episodes on one day, but unfortunately we now know that's not the case. It was just confirmed that only 1 episode of Horizons will be airing next week. I just thought I'd quickly inform you guys of that so no one's disappointed on the day. So let me know your thoughts on this episode below, and be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed my review, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much to the 50,000 trillion channel members zooming down the screen right now at the speed of light. You guys are the best. And of course, a massive thank you to the Ferlax fam, the Ferlax fanatics, like Toten, Giscadia, Not Mini, Hope, Shareborn, Jay, Finny, Pokesan, Shiny. And on that note, thank you all so much for watching, and best wishes until we meet again.